my phone just did the craziest thing. I was making this voice note on false realities and the Matrix, and my phone literally just cut out, and there's no record of the video of the voice note. But anyway, we digress. Let's just get back to the point. So my aim was to talk about the concentric, I call it the concentric rings of reality. So essentially there are false realities within false realities, and it's a bit like a babushka doll, you know, one within the other, within the other, within the other, yeah? So it's essentially a question of the search for ultimate truth, you know, what is the ultimate truth about this reality. So I'm going to use the example of the Truman Show, and I'm going to use the example of other things in nature, and we can get a bit closer to, or we can get the conversation started anyway, because I don't profess to know the answers, but you know, we can ask some questions. So essentially, when you watch the Truman Show, what's the story about? You've got the story of a child that's born, and he is essentially kind of like placed in a false reality within this kind of like movie set, right? So it's like a geodesic dome or something like this, within which he lives, and they've created a false reality all around him in terms of the schools, the job, friends, family. Everything around him is false. There's nothing in his reality that's actually true, right? So essentially this movie kind of like carries on. Truman's living his life, and essentially he has a moment. It's kind of like, it ties in with like the concept of solipsism, which is knowing that you're the only thing that exists. You know, you can't, you know, it's almost like the knowledge of not knowing anything, but then you know that you exist. You know, that's the only thing that you know to be true. And that's one of the fundamental truths, right? Because you know that you exist. But you can't convince another of your existence, because there's no way to prove that you actually truly exist. This is for the high level thinkers. So I mean, if your first question to this is, oh well, if you kill somebody and they cease to exist, then that's how you know they exist. No, because that's very kind of like 3D based. That's because even if you were to delete somebody, get rid of somebody, kill somebody, or see somebody die, how do you know that they actually existed? Because you don't even, this is where it gets a bit crazy, because essentially you are still perceiving messages from the 3D world to convince you of this person's existence, but you don't actually know it to be fundamentally true. I wish I can explain this better, but I can't. Anyway, because if you go back to the experiment or the notion of the brain in the vat, this is why if you're thinking along those lines, I'll recommend you do some reading on the brain in the vat theory, or essentially even sort of like think about the Matrix movies, you know. So he lives in a world, he sees everything's around him, he thinks it's real, and then he gets unplugged and he gets into the real world, where he realizes that actually all of the stuff that he saw in existence was not real. None of it was, right? But even if, to get one step further, if let's say him unplugging was a psychedelic experience or whatever it was, and he came to this realization that he was the only person in existence, you know, that could be the final full stop. But anyway, I think I'm getting slightly off track here, but I know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so if we get back to the point of the Truman Show, so he's in this kind of like world, and you know, he's the only person, you know, that is kind of real, right? Because everybody's playing a role within that world. So he kind of feels like something's not right in that reality, i.e. he feels that everything around him is fake, not real, or doesn't have the same existence that he has. okay, because everybody's playing a character in the world that he inhabits. True? So he then starts to sort of like research and dig into it, blah blah blah, and then eventually, I mean, it's a bit of luck as well, where something falls out of the sky. But I think that was a message for most of us, really, because if you look into the skies, it's a bit of a giveaway that you live in some sort of like clock. You know, the sky itself operates as a very efficient clock, and it's quite, you know, apt that they used a star falling down as the kind of like giveaway. So anyway, he starts on this journey to recognize that, look, something's not right, and he eventually gets to the wall and he escapes, right? Or he leaves the false reality. But he leaves that false reality only to enter another false reality, another simulation. Let me explain. Because when you watch that movie, the spectators or the people watching the show, they have jobs, right? They live the lives that we see in the world as we know, which we know is not authentic. It's not the authentic way a person should live. So in essence, those people are also in a false reality. So he's left one false reality only to enter another false reality. So even if he gets into that other world, right? What happens? Oh, okay. So, Truman, you welcome to the world, blah blah blah. But again, he's still gonna get to a point and look around him and think, but all of this is fake. None of this is really authentic in terms of the human experience, right? So even though his gatekeeper was Christoph, or whatever his name was, Christos or Christoph, I can't remember. The people, the spectator world which he is going to join, also has a Christoph, which is the government or whoever's in charge of that false reality, right? And there are multiple other fake simulations all around. So let me give you an example. When you go to North Korea or China, right, there's a perception of how the world works from that point of view, right, which is fake, because China would tell its citizens that the world operates this way or that way, right? North Korea have told their citizens that, you know, the guy, what's his name, Kim, whatever his name is, the fat boy, that his dad is his granddad had superpowers or whatever it was, and he's somehow God, right? So they're not allowed to leave, and you know, blah blah blah, and they live in that false reality. China also has a story. It tells its people that communism is the way, blah 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 blah, and that's the reality they live in. The Americans live in a world which is also another false reality, where they've been convinced that they live in a land of the free, and they're the freest people on earth, and you know, home of the brave, and they fight for, you know, the liberation of people, and they go around the world protecting the freedoms that they enjoy at home, which is a fallacy. It's not real. It's a lie. It's a false reality. It's a simulation. Do you get it? So it doesn't matter like what country you live in. Every country, this is why countries exist in the first place, because they run their own simulation programs on their population. And I've always said this, me and one of my kind of like, I call him my mental sparring partner, we have these very deep discussions from time to time, and you know, we came to the realization that, you know, ultimately, you know, you get to a point in life, and it's like you recognize that it's like there are different farms, you know, there are different farms in existence that people kind of like occupy, and there are different kind of, I don't know how to explain it, like different farms with different rules, different kind of freedoms, different expectations, and in essence just to see how far they can, or the parameters by which they can build these simulations and see how the people respond. Because it's like, if you've been fortunate enough to live in different parts of the world, which I have been, I've lived in Europe, I've lived in Africa, I've spent some time in the Middle East as well, and I've traveled extensively. And if you go to different parts of the world, it's almost like, oh, this is okay, but that's not. But back home we do this. Oh no, but here you can't do that. And they are just different kind of tweaks to that simulation, because it's not real. None of it is real. Because ultimately, when you come down to the nuts and bolts of it, right, it's all down to control. This is why you have governments and quote unquote leadership, presidents, kings, whatever, because they're the people that actually promote, produce, extend, galvanize the simulation. That's their job. That's their job. That's literally their job. Because none of it is real. Because if you are truly living your true human authentic experience, you wouldn't have to participate in any of their games. You should be able to live life according to your terms, in accordance to your how you see fit. Like who made the notion of the week? That is a simulation. The notion of the month, another simulation. The notion of the year, simulation. Do you think animals live by months and years and days, weeks and all this other rubbish? No, they don't. Every day is a new day. Every day in itself is every day is another another what do you call it? I can't think of the word, but then every day is another eternity. Basically, it's another full life. You're born in the morning, and at night you're gonna that's death, and then you come back there. You're reborn again, and that's it. You carry on. If you don't make it, you don't make it. That's the end of that story, and we carry on. Because these notions are all fake. There's no credibility to them. Like, why 7 days? Why is a week 7 days? Why isn't a week 3 days? Why isn't a week 10 days? Why isn't a week 50 days? Because you can't quantify time. What is the duration of a second? Can anybody tell me what the duration of a second is? Or the duration of a millisecond, or because if you get down to the bits, if you completely dissect it to its individual parts, you recognize that it's not real. Because time in itself, if you read about Zeno's paradox of motion, you realize that time itself is an illusion. So if time's an illusion, right? Then what is a week? What is a month? Why do you have to work 5 days and have 2 days off? Why can't it be 50-50? Why do you have to do any of it? Do you understand? So what I'm trying to say is, they're all simulations within simulations. So Truman is not free. Truman is not free, and the code word is in the movie itself. The true man is not free in this reality, because he breaks out of one cage. Guess what? He's in another cage. So now let me use another example of nature within nature. So say, for instance, you have like a lion, right? That is in a zoo. So the lion recognizes that he stops eating, or like, let's use the example of ocean animals are slightly different, but let's use let's use an example of a lion, right? So or a gorilla or a chimp or whatever it is, and he's in captivity. He's like, nah, something ain't right. So he breaks out, and the spectators, the people who go to the zoo, the workers in the zoo, whatever, they're like, oh, he's broken out, okay, cool, let's release him into the wild, quote unquote wild, right? But how much wild spaces are left for him to actually roam? What if he truly wants to roam the whole world? He can't. He can't, because he'll have to be put into a nature reserve which has a boundary. Do you see the code? Do you see what I'm trying to say? Even the nature reserve has a boundary. Like, show me a jungle on earth or a piece of like wilderness on earth that has not got a boundary set by a government or a country or whatever. You know? So even he's not truly free. But he can try and, I think, living in a bigger, in that reality or that false simulation is actually better than living in the first reality. So the least thing we can do is break out of at least the first cage, man. That's the least we can do. Break out the first cage. And then let's figure out the second one. And the third, you know, however many layers to this shit that they exist, you know. So now we come to the point where it's like, okay, so Christoph, the guy that was running the simulation in the case of Truman, Christoph, right? Christoph had knowledge, yeah, which Truman didn't have. And this is why they say knowledge is power, bro. And I keep telling people, like, and even me doing this YouTube stuff, talking to people, I'm just sharing the knowledge that, I don't profess to know anything. I'm just a student. I'm just sharing what I've learned. Because knowledge is truly power. Because when you don't know, you are lost. And sometimes I think back to my own life, right? Or previous iterations of this life, shall I say, when I had no clue as to how this thing actually worked, right? And I used to believe the government. I used to read the newspapers. I used to think all of that was real. It's a simulation. That in itself is a game. Like, you mean to, you know, like, two political parties can't figure out how to run a country. You know, and why are there always two? You know, there are always two dominant ones. These are all giveaways, you know. And then they have all these discussions. Even the people participating in the discussions in Parliament know it's a joke. This is why it's so boring. It's to the average person, it's boring because it's almost like there's some part of your being that knows that it's a charade, it's a joke. There's some part of your being that knows that. This is why when you watch it, it's just it's draining, it's tiring. Like, even a discussion in Parliament or Congress, right, is regulated. No, hang on a minute. You have a person that's supposedly speaking for a group of people, his constituency, his whatever, right? Right? But he can't talk with passion. He can't say what he truly feels. Because if you were to ask the people there how they felt about topic X or Y, they would speak with passion, right? But he can't. The person that's representing them, speaking for them, can't speak with passion. He can't speak how he wants to speak. He has to follow these rules and he has to do this. And that is a joke. It's a joke. And even when he has to raise his hand, think about this, people, man. He has to raise his hand like a child in a classroom. So the speaker, the what do you call it, Mr. Speaker, the person who's in charge of the room, right, say, yeah, you can speak. So let me give you an example. So what if Mr. Speaker does not see the member of Parliament or the member of Congress for this area? He doesn't see him. Or what if he's got a vendetta against him because he didn't say hello to him in the hallway? Or what if he doesn't like him for whatever reason, so he never picks him to speak in Congress or Parliament? then that means a group of people that can number in the tens of thousands, right, will never be heard in that place. So whatever their grievances are, whatever issues they need to address, will never be heard. People, politics is a fucking joke. If you still believe in politics at this point in the game, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. And then when the people actually take to the streets and say, hey, we don't agree with this, we don't want you to do this, such as like the Scottish referendum or the weapons of mass destruction and Tony Blair being a war criminal and all these sorts of things, the system turns around and says, no, I mean, we can see that you're outside and you're talking and stuff, but nah, we're going to do what we want to do anyway. Now you tell me whether politics works or not. And you tell me whether it's not a simulation that you are participating in, whether consciously or unconsciously or subconsciously. That's it. So here's what you have to do. You have to play this whole life thing like a video game. Make your own rules and play it, because the people that run in this place do exactly that. Because he's choosing to listen to you, right? That means he has his own value system. He has his own morals. He has his own morality and system of decision making and expectations. He doesn't give a shit what you think. So why should you give a shit what he thinks? It's obvious. And if you play this thing like a video game, right, and you truly empower yourself, so like Truman did, right? He just said, nah, fuck this, I'm going. The whole of society, my family, my friends, everybody expects me to go this way, but you know what? I want to go the other way. So that's what I'm going to do. Guess what? You will at least break out of some of the simulations. True or false? And then when you start to do that, you recognize that most of the people that are around you are completely and totally plugged into the system. They're probably not even sentient, man. They're probably just programs. One of my friends has this joke that he runs, and it's hilarious. He says most of these people probably go home and get plugged in, like they probably go home and plug themselves into their charging systems, because they just live this life of monotony and these mundane experiences, which to me is so alien, it's so unnaturally human, that they must be robots. They must be. I mean, how can a person live their life, right? Like, live your life. Like, the best example I can give you is, I need you to Google this, or YouTube this video, Rick and Morty, Roy game, right? So in this episode, I don't actually watch this show, but I remember watching a video and I saw an excerpt of this and I thought, how accurate. So in this show, I think they're in space, or it's like this fake space reality thing. So these two characters go in there and he puts a helmet on and he plays a video game as a character called Roy on Earth, right? So he's on Earth and he goes to school and he does this, and then he's living this boring life. He has dinner every night with his wife and kid, talking about some fucking shit that he doesn't care about. And he gets cancer, he survives cancer, and he goes back to working the same fucking job, and in the end he falls off some stairs, a step ladder, and dies, right? And he gets to 55 years old. And when he comes back, he's like, oh, like he's so attached to the game, he comes back as himself in the arcade place, and he's like, oh shit. And everybody's like, oh, you did good, like you did 55 years. But like, and the guy said to him, it was pretty stupid of you to have cancer and go back and work in the same fucking job. It's a game, right? Which means that you're gonna die anyway, right? Like nobody makes it out alive of this place, right? So why, like any human that lives a life that they don't want to live, might as well kill themselves. Like, I'm not advocating suicide. It's just an expression, figure of speech. We live in this new age. You can't say these things. But if you're not following what makes your heart sing, you're not following your passions, you need to, like, you're good as dead. You're essentially waiting for death, right? Which is shit. Like, you have this whole life experience. Like, why would you just want to live such a mundane existence and not be passionate about something and go after it? And this is what my friend said, like, for people that don't have any of these passions and they live this like a robotic existence, they literally can't be they can't be true, they can't be real human beings. And I am inclined to agree with him. Because if you truly are a human being that has a beating heart in your chest, like, there must be something that you're passionate about. Even if it's bird watching, shit, go out and bird watch. Do that. It's far more interesting and beneficial to your soul than doing some shit you don't want to do. Like, think about it. You know, Truman wanted to travel, right? That's what he wanted to do. He didn't know how he was going to do it, but he just thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And then by following that passion, he broke through the simulation. It's a code, guys. If you want to break through the simulation, you must. There literally is no choice. You literally must. You have to break. You have to break the simulation. And by breaking the simulation, you have to follow your passion. There's no other way. There's no other way. There's only one way to do it, and you have to go through by following your passion. That's it. It's your passion or nothing else. You have to break through and follow your passion. That's it. Find something that makes your heart sing. Find something that makes you feel human, bro. And go after that. You know, and a lot of people say, oh, I want money. No, you don't want money. You want freedom. And you want freedom to do something. So whatever that thing is, right? Find a way to do it. Find a way to do it, whatever that thing is. Oh. Find a way to do that thing, whatever that thing is. Find a way to do that thing, whatever that thing is. Truly. That's the whole code. You know. But yeah, anyway. Oh man. I always make this mistake. Oh shit. Right. I gotta go. Shit, what are we gonna do here? Is this guy coming? Is he going? Oh man. Fuck. Oh man. Oh man. I'm just at my gym and the car park is always rammed on a Monday, and it's just car gymnastics at the moment. Yeah, that's what I'm doing, so that's why I'm slightly distracted. Yeah. Anyway, that's it.